Is more always better? My science fair experiment. Hello, my name is Ruhan Hingarani, and today I will be sharing with you my findings on whether more is always better or not. So first I'll be covering the question. So what is my experiment about? My experiment is basically just proving the saying, the more the merrier, wrong. I will be doing that by putting various amounts of laundry soap to wash a rag. My hypothesis. What did I think the result would be? I hypothesized the 0 ml and 5 ml test won't have much effect. 20 ml and 60 ml will leave soap residue, and 10 and 15 will be just right. I hypothesized this because we see this in everyday life. When we use too much soap to wash a window, for example, it leaves a residue, whereas when we don't use enough, it doesn't clean it enough. The materials. So you'll need a tablespoon to measure dirt, garden soil as the dirt, a microfiber rag, and it has to be microfiber because that's what I used. So that's what I cleaned. 6 plastic containers to put the rags in, 2-liter water measure for measuring the water that you put in the rag to clean. Water and laundry soap to clean the rag, and a milliliter measure, like one of those medicine measures, to measure how much soap you put in. The procedure. What steps did I follow? So first I gathered the control materials that I just stated, and then I put a tablespoon of garden soil on one of my 6 microfiber rags, and then I ran the washing process. So first I filled the plastic container with 2 liters of water after I measured it, and then I measured the correct amount of soap according to the test and put that in. And then I dipped and raised the rag in the soapy water 20 times, which would shake off loose dirt. And then I just soak it under water for 1 hour and run it under running water for 1 minute. Then the drying process would be to wring it dry and then leave it to dry for 8 to 10 hours. Then you run the dirt checks, which would be a hand check to feel for dirty/soapy spots, a smell check to test for bad odors, which I did not elaborate on, so because they would see what the bad odors were, and visual check to see where there's dirt on the cloth or not. And then you repeat steps 2 to 5 more times, changing the amount of soap. So we did 0 ml first, and then 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, then 60. So now we will see how things progressed. 0 minutes for 0 ml was like a little bit of dirt separated, and then at 30 minutes, more dirt separated, and quite a bit separated actually. And at the end of 60 minutes, this worked not too good, but not too bad because you can see some dirt on it. 5 ml was pretty much the same. Like 0 minutes and 30 minutes were the same as a 0 ml, except at the end of the hour, this one stayed dirtier than 0 milliliter rag. 10 ml, I forgot to take a photo of it in the bin for 0 and 60 minutes, but it was pretty much the same. At 30 minutes, I did notice that a lot of dirt was coming off and it was sinking to the bottom due to the soap. And at the end, I saw this was definitely one of the cleaner ones. The soap definitely worked. 15 ml was basically the same for this one. 20 and 60 at the 0 minute mark. The rag was hidden under the bubbles, so you can't see it in the photo, but it was basically the same progression. At the end of 60 minutes, this rag had minimal dirt on the front and no dirt on the back. At the end of 20 minutes, again at 0 minutes, it's under the bubbles. At 30 minutes, the dirt was definitely separating, but the only thing wrong about this test was at the end of 60 minutes, when we took it out to wring it and leave it to dry, it felt a bit soapy. And at 60 minutes, the rag was yet again hidden under the bubbles. At 30 minutes, I could see some dirt was separating, but the rest of it was still sticking onto the rag. And that was probably because of the soap. At the end of 60 minutes, we saw this one stayed the dirtiest. Like, it looked filthy. It's almost as if we didn't clean it. Something I'd like to add is that this test was mostly conducted to see if it would leave soap residue, just in case 20 ml and lesser amounts didn't. So after drying, in this photo, you can definitely see what's what. 60 ml and 20 ml look pretty dirty. 0, 5, and 15 are meh, and 10 looks pretty clean. Yeah, and I wrote here that 15 ml looks cleaner, which it does. But looking back, I think 10 also looks pretty clean. This is the table I used when doing the tests to record the data. And this shows me, again, what's what. 10 ml, for example, so 10 means really dirty, 1 means really clean. 10 ml's data range from 1 out of 10 to 4 out of 10, whereas 60 ml's ranged from 6 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. So the results overall, here's the graph for the test of prickliness. This is the graph for the test of odor, and this is the graph for the visual check of dirt. So overall, the tests tell me that the 10 ml cloth was the cleanest, whereas the 60 ml cloth was the dirtiest, as I will be sharing here. The other graph was just a table of the averages of who said what. This one ranks first place being cleanest, sixth being dirtiest. So first place was 10, second place was 5, then 0, 15, 20, 60. So this is the conclusion now. My hypothesis was neither correct nor was it incorrect, because I thought that the Goldilocks amount would work best, and I thought too much soap would leave a residue, which they did, but I also thought that low amounts like 0 and 5 wouldn't leave much effect. But in the end, they both cleaned it better than 15 ml. So I could have made my experiment better by asking more people my questions for the test, but due to COVID, that would have been hard. And a practical problem this could help is cooking, for example. And if we take something simple like an egg, if we add too much salt in it, it'll taste bitter. But if we don't add enough, it'll remain tasteless. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Here are my school email address and my personal email address. Please email me if you have any questions.